welcome. My name is Holly Claire and this is my landscape architecture vlog. A little bit about me, I'm from Kent. I came up north to study landscape architecture. I'm currently in my third and final year of my undergraduate course, and I would like to use these series of vlogs and this channel to document my final module through to my design process, to the final product and my presentation. So what is landscape architecture? Well, basically it's the design, management and nurturing of both human and environmental health. So how is this achieved? Basically, we get a good understanding for the site itself and see how the space is interacted with. And from there we discuss the positives and negatives of the space and see how better we can design for it. After writing a dissertation about landscape architecture and how we can better mitigate climate change, I chose a site called the Hedgerow in Leeds. It's a long strip of road in the centre of Leeds, and I chose that site because after doing some pollutional recordings, I found that that space, out of all the spaces that I chose, and they consist of pocket parks, pedestrianised zones, traffic zones, etc. I found that that road specifically had really high levels of pollution, even so much so that there was a warning sign discussing that this could affect people with sensitive groups, such as people with asthma like myself. So I think that space is the perfect space to start designing for. So now research begins. So this could be anything from history of the site, the use of the site, links into the site, anything I can find that I feel is beneficial to my design process. And then after this, you'll begin to see how I present this to my lecturer and how I feel will better benefit me, and our discussion from that, and how I can use the research that I have found to develop even better research for the site. Yes, so I want to keep in that area. So the hedgerow.
Yes. Let me make it 3D so we have it. Okay.
Yeah, so I began picking up the census that was taken, because obviously that caters to the pollution, and also if I want to introduce a corridor, what that affects and all stuff like that. So I've got housing types, occupancy, social grade, gender, health, education, qualifications and all stuff like that. Religion, which was a big thing that they mentioned. Hiya, sorry to jump in. I just wanted to quickly mention I had a meeting with Leeds City Council, which was a great opportunity. I was able to discuss with them what they've done in recent years to improve Leeds City Centre, what they are currently planning, and also some of the sites that they feel needs to be looked at next, which was great to talk about. So when I'm referring to they said this is what they mean. Economic activity, another thing they mentioned, and the employment industry and all that sort of stuff. And then places that are nearby, which I could connect the place to through green corridors. Just
are these the data for the city centre?
This is for the Hedgerow postcode.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah. So it mentions obviously nearby postcodes, but it's saying how far this is away from the hedgerow. So we've got schools, doctor's surgeries and stuff like that, which might be appropriate if I want to redirect the traffic.
Then how it affects the daily life of the people, their access to the services that they might
Exactly.
Okay. So
I then went on to look at bus and train, how people can get there. And obviously that it shows like the walking distance from each bus station to there as well. So that's relevant if I want to redirect traffic and stuff like that.
Okay.
And also the same from the train stations and how busy it can be and stuff. I then looked into the scheme of the hedgerow and what they are planning to do. And this is the roadmap of what they are planning to do to redirect traffic and what is most appropriate. And bus routes and all stuff like that. So I need to look into that a little bit more. And there's Cookridge Street that they mentioned also.
Yes.
So it's quite beneficial to hear them talk about that, because then it related to what I researched.
Yes. It's a very successful intervention.
Yes. So I'm going to look a bit further into that. And this is the same. And then what's their first impressions? So they've got like footway congestion, lack of green infrastructure. So I've got somebody else's point of view, and then I feel like, and then I'll do a site visit to then get my first impressions as well and compare it.
Yes.
So that's nice to have things that they're doing in the city that could influence of how I approach the hedgerow area. So they was talking about the Corn Exchange, City Square and stuff like that. So I might do some site visits to them, also just to compare obviously the different sorts of situations in that place and see what I could take from that, which is more appropriate to put into a place like the hedgerow. And then just the same again, air quality improvements and helping you breathe easier, and what they're planning to do. So new bus corridors, the hedgerow historic makeover, which is another thing I need to look into, because I don't want to take the heritage away, but
absolutely, we want to
reflects that. Cycling as well, they're introducing a lot of more cycle routes, so I could always introduce cycle routes through the hedgerow as well, so that's something to look into. So what you just saw was me and my lecturer discussing my research. So my next plan ahead is to go on a site visit. So the research I found was history of the site, just general knowledge of the site, census taken in 2011 of that specific postcode. I also researched Leeds City Council's what they are planning to do for the site, which is very interesting. So I can compare my ideas with them and also their first opinions of the site, which is very helpful. And they believe that that space needs to be improved in some way or another. So great news. So now I'm going to take this information. I've got initial judgment of the area, and now I'm going to go on my site visit. So I will see you there. So here we are in the hedgerow. So my first impressions, this area is a very car dominated, or shall I say vehicle dominated area. So the roads take priority over pedestrianised pathways. So that is a key thing to know in this area. So here we approach Cookridge Street. So this is a new development, a £1.7 million project which introduces more seating, greenery and a new cycle path off of the hedgerow. So my first impressions, I think the layout is very successful. It gives enough room for people to congregate, which is important in a city, while still having the balance of green space, which is needed more and more every day in urbanised settings, for people to just step out and relax, which the seating is available in this space, which is another key thing to applaud. I also enjoyed some of the light features along the pathway. It draws people in, which is great, and I can imagine at night that this is rather successful. So on my walk I came across this bench, and I just think this is the perfect example of how to utilise space by combining the bench and the plant bed, and thinking about where would people like to sit, of course amongst flowers and stuff like that. But however, the plant bed itself hasn't been successful, so that leads on to the question as to why isn't it working? Oh no. So as I was walking up the hedgerow, I noticed that 8 buses at one stop congregated. Even though we want regular car use out of the city, there needs to be a better solution. We want public transport, but not so much in one area, as it's not helping the issue. So my first initial thoughts were, how can I move buses so they don't congregate in one area? So I need to look at road strategy. So here we approach Dormant Square. So this space is used for protests, but apart from that, it's not utilised that much. So my first impressions of the site, so there is seating available, but what I did notice is that yes, people were sitting there, but only briefly, no more than 5 minutes, just to reorganise themselves, catch their breath, but not necessarily to sit and enjoy the site. So that's definitely something to consider. Another thing I noticed was that the statue that you see, it wasn't greatly celebrated where it was, so that's something to also consider. However, I feel like this square has a great location and really has some potential. So after my site visit, I decided to hit the library. So I decided to finish up some sketches that I began on my site visit. It was a bit windy, so it's quite challenging, so I just wanted to finish them up and perfect them. But I think it's very key to do some sketches on the site, and it really shows your true impressions of the site, so definitely give it a go. So here I'm just continuing doing some research and also writing up my first impressions of the site. So I'm just going to wrap up the video here because I don't want it to get too long, but if you have watched this to the end, you're a real trooper and thank you very much. So hopefully I'll see you in my next episode. What we'll be looking at in that video, I will be doing a case study and like a site visit to Ashford Outlet. It's a great case study to look at because it's entirely retail, which my area is entirely retail at the hedgerow, and they've completely revamped the place in recent years. Really shows off what landscape architecture can do. So I think that'll be a great thing to look at, and then hopefully see what I take from there and my research and my site visit, and begin to design. So hopefully I'll see you then. Thank you very much. Bye.